Alrighty, guys. It is 3:30. It is Wednesday, December 17th, and I think Santa gave up on us. Freaking Santa just bailed out and never looked back. So we started off this morning range bound. We were looking for early strength, given the overnight. We'll pop it up like this, and let me see here. Let me see. News this morning, mortgage apples to the downside. Christopher Wallace started speaking this morning. There was a little bit of hullabaloo. No retail sale number came out. I had no recording of that. It was listed, but nothing came out. And that was about it. But then you can see here, as this whole thing started, just kind of falling apart on us. Let me drag this guy down a little bit so you can see the middle of it. Go back and flip up my F1 again. This is my F1 on this guy. Okay, so we started off range bound. Overnight was way up here, and we had a pretty good feeling that we could see a little bit of strength developing out of that. But no, they holding this together now. Now it looks more like a move out of the middle to the downside. And we are still kind of right here at the 67.90s. We are taking out the 90s. So I would say that we are in territory where it's going to get pretty gnarly. So at this point, just starting off on the short side, we haven't been able to get up. I mean, the levels we talked about this morning was to buy against support. The 68.20, 68.10, 6800 were the last ones to buy against. The outlier was 67.90, and we're below the outlier. So I think it's safe to say that we kind of blew through everything we expected, and we are on the downside. So move out of the middle to the downside. It was this feels like at least right now. Now this could be a one-off. We could see it's a complete reversal here going into tomorrow. I'm not sure. We'll see. Anything can happen. We have a CPI number come out tomorrow at 8:30. We have retail jobless CPI, jobless claims, Philly Fed all coming out at 8:30. We have e-commerce retail sales, leading indicators coming out at 10. So we have a lot of news coming out tomorrow. Now I'm seeing some delayed notices on my calendar, but I can't tell. Sometimes I just can't get the sense out of it, which way it's going to come out or not. I'm just going to assume they come out and then see if they don't, they don't. But at this point, I would start off on the short side now. I thought this morning we said if you start taking out these support areas, the 60, 68 30s, 68 20s, I would definitely start thinking about the short side. Yes, and the dynamic there was really that okay, if they start running it lower, you want to try hopping on in that direction because you never know how far they're going to take it. They just avoid selling into support. Now, you had a great setup right there, BD. So the B period stalled here at the 68.40s. In D period, it popped up, and you can see that they started running this lower. If you didn't catch it right away, which is difficult, but you see, but you can definitely catch it as they take out the 30s on the way down here. So somewhere on below the 30s here, or at the 30s, when you start taking that out, you have a pretty clear indication that you want to try a short trade there. And you don't know how far it's going to go, so you can look to cover against these support areas, but there was like no relief at all. This guy, they ran it all, D period ran it all the way down to the 6800. Then they were flopping around here in the afternoon. They've been grinding it a couple of steps lower. And I'm looking at end period to plop it even lower. I don't think they're going to see a snapback at all. I think they're going to see an end period take out the low and driving this lower. Chances are they're going to drive it down to this attractor here at the 6760s. That would be your attracted. 65, 60 to 65 in this area. That's your attractor on the downside. So that's where I think they're going to take it, at least at least before the close. But I mean, it's anyone's guess if that's going to happen or not. But it feels pretty likely. And when they have this kind of weakness and no relief, that's most likely what's going to happen. And you can see no snapback at the 2 o'clock hour. They just kind of slopped around sideways, sideways, sideways. No action at all. And a nice short setup here at the tablet. However, if you got short on the first bar, you got shaken out on the second. So that happens more than often. So if you want to be safe on that one, you kind of have to leave your stop outside of that. And unless they start running it higher, you'll just have a small loss instead of just getting shaken out of the trade. I tend to just leave it as a break-even trade, and then if I get stopped out, I'm stopped out. I just take the shot, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You never know on that second retest if it's going to keep going or not. But if you got stopped out on the first bar and you're looking at the second one, you can always re-engage it and resell it in with better trade location. So there's no reason to just leave your stop outside and be stubborn about it. So that's the way I'm reasoning about that. But you can see we're down at the we're below the 67.95. We haven't quite gotten down to this attractor, and I'm thinking that that's where we're heading. It's not moving a whole lot. So I had 2 trades today on the ES. The first one, I can show you that the first one was short up here against the volume weighted mean. Got short, got shaken out, didn't try it again, and here you have the exact same thing. The run down shook me out, traded higher, and then they failed. And if I sat in that trade very stubbornly, I would have it's shaking out in that second one. So it's just you know, you can always re-engage it on that second bar if you want to. Nothing stops you from doing that. And here's your plop. Here's the first run down here, taking out the 6840s, start running it, and somewhere here when it start taking out the 30s, you have a 1, 2, maybe 3 bars of non-stop selling. You have opportunities to get in. That it was pretty sloppy on the way down. These bars are pretty big. I mean, this is 32 up to where it's like 10-point bars back and forth, and you got a lot of rotations going on inside those bars as well. So not easy to get in and stick with it, but if you do, you can get into a nice trade. And I've been, you can see a non-stop down London close, kind of stalled a bit at the London close. We just been kind of going sideways since, drifting a little bit lower, a couple of plops to the downside, but nothing which says that we're going to see any kind of snapback rally here. So it may happen, but I'm not going to count on it. If anything, I'm going to look for another pop here late in the session, maybe at the 12:50, that 10 minutes before the close, 5 minutes before the close, we'll see that last flop. Maybe too late for me to want to trade it. I'm up 28 on 2 trades on the ES. On the Nasdaq, I just did 1 trade, and that was early on. That was at the flop, and I can show you that. That was when they start taking it out. A little bit late on it. The first levels on the downside, you kind of get taken by surprise. It happens too quick. You tend to look for an opportunity, and here we have it. They start taking out the low, and it started heading lower, and I hopped on a short trade. And you can see how small that move is. I get in, a burst of activity. I get out, and that's $73. And then you can see if I sat in that trade, this rotation would have taken me out at the break-even trade. So you have to be nimble on it, and if you want to be safe, you have to really leave a big stop and not be too aggressive on it, because the rotations here are brutal. And we are down here at the 940s now, and we are potentially heading even lower on the Nasdaq. Let me see. Yeah, make that a little bit big. I'm going to scroll this back again. Hang on. Scroll this back over here. We are going sideways. Here, let me see. Pull up the Nasdaq big. Pull on the capital flow chart. And here you have the crazy stuff. So Nasdaq definitely looks like a move out of the middle to the downside. I mean, we had almost that happening here on a few days back. Nasdaq was feeling pretty weak, but it was still kind of flirting with that the 360, 370 volume rate. Now they have absolutely blown through that edge. We are down here in this lower area. We're heading down towards that 800, 820. That's your attractor, your mode on the downside. And right now we're stalling at this low volume area, this the 25,000. Excuse me. The 24,900 to 25,000. Low volume area, little edge right there. So we'll be stalling there. Now, I'm thinking they can blow through that one and take us all the way down here towards the lower end of this range. That can happen before the close. This could get pretty gnarly going into the end. Now, if you want to trade it at the very end, if they start taking it out, you got to be pretty nimble on it. But you can potentially get into a nice, very late in the day trade. But I'm not gonna engage in that now. I would look for that if I was in a losing trade or if I had down money on it, but I'm up 73 on that one contract, so I'm not gonna mess with it at this point. But man, it's been a brutal day. So starting off this morning, we given the overnight to see the overnight was pretty good. It went up here towards the upper edges, and you can see right at the open the start taking this lower. That's normal early morning weakness, right? Running it down like that, testing the session lows. But then in deep period, then actually they cream the whole thing, and that's brutal. So pretty brutal day, I had to say. Not easy by any means. So 2 trades on the ES up 28, 1 trade on the Nasdaq up 73. So that's the record so far. On the bonds, I haven't taken a bond trade today. I did looked for one, but as you can see, the bond market has. I mean, early in the morning. You had this little rotation up there. 2 bars, and they immediately failed. and they started running low. A little bit too early, a little bit too weak of a setup. The next setup, the retest took out the tick. That negated that. I was looking for a trade down here, and the lower end of the reverse retest at 02. There was only there is this rotation there, 305 contracts traded there. So even if you had a working limit there, you would not have worked. But I was watching it, and I was almost going to put in a limit order on that first bar, but they ran down, they bounced off it, and I figured, okay, that's weird. So I stopped it. But usually, if it runs down there and stays, the low stays there, and they try to test that low, that would be a better setup for a buying opportunity down there. Either way, it wouldn't have filled you. 3 or 5 contracts would have been a yes, would not have filled the limit, or unless you had it working there for a while, you know. And then on the way up, again, the retest here took out the tick, took out the high with the tick, so I didn't try it. And the next retest took it out with a tick. Then you were down. The next retest takes it out with a tick. So none of this sets up as a good retest. I was watching this 17th up here for a bit for a retest here at the London close, but there was nothing like that developing. So, and then they stalled here in the middle. So I stopped looking at it. But the bond market, and it did not set up any decent trades. Now you can see you run up here, run it up to resistance at 16.17. So you can try to get short up here on the F2 if you're looking at that, but I want to see the F2, the level, and I want to see that retest failure. Every time I've been aggressive on stepping in front of it like that, just in front of a level, it tends to run it higher, like a few ticks or even more than that, and just get caught in it, you know, and that sucks. So one trade, you remember, I don't know if you remember that, I sat in that freaking trade for, I was a while, like a good half hour before it started developing, and that was more luck than skill, and that happened. Anyway, back to the ES and the NASDAQ, and so far, just waiting for that little plop to occur. We'll see if it happens, but definitely a weak day. So we're starting off on the short side, looking to sell strength, looking for short opportunities up to 25,070, the 25,120s for rotations down. On the ES, looking for short setups against the. I'll probably just wait for the setups to wait for them to reverse retest this 68.10. 10 to 12 and 68.20 for short setups. There could be something in the middle. I have to kind of look at that after it closes here and make up my mind. But leaning short on both the ES and NASDAQ going into the overnight. Let's see how far they're going to take it. Alrighty, guys, we leave it there. I'll see you back bright and early in the morning. You guys have a good evening. Later.